Okay, day 3. I did not think he slept much during the night, but I had been told that old people didn't sleep much anyway. I woke up when there was a pale band of light to the east, and Timothy said, "You fare well, young boss. How is the head?" "It still hurts," I admitted. Timothy said, "A crack on the head takes a few days to go away." He opened the trap on the raft to pull out the water keg and the tin containing the biscuits, the chocolate squares, and dry matches. I sat up, feeling dizzy. He allowed me half a cup of water and 2 hard biscuits, then fed Stu Cat with a wedge of leftover flying fish. We ate in silence as the light crept steadily over the smooth, oily sea. The wind had died, and already the sun was beginning to scorch. Timothy chewed slowly on half a biscuit. "Today, young boss, a schooner will pass. I better jump on that." "I hope so," I said. "I do think we are too far from Podentia and San Andres." I looked hard at Timothy. "Are they islands?" He nodded. I kept looking at him. It seemed there was a film, a haze, separating us. I rubbed my eyes and opened them again, but the haze was still there. I glanced over at the red ball of sun, now clear of the horizon. It seemed dim. I said, "I think there is something wrong with my eyes." Timothy said, "I warned you. You looked direct at the sun yesterday." Yes, that was it. I had looked at the sun too much. "Today," Timothy said, "do not even look at the water. The glare is bad too." He went about setting up the triangles for our shelter, and I took off my clothes. After he had draped my pants and shirt, I got under the shelter. The pain in my head was almost unbearable now, and I remember moaning. Timothy tore off a piece of his shirt from the shelter roof, soaked it in fresh water, and placed it over my eyes. There was worry in his voice as he talked. A while later, I took the cloth off my eyes and looked up. The inside of our shelter was shadowy and dark, but the pain had begun to go away. "It doesn't hurt as much anymore," I said. "Ah, see? It just takes time, young boss." I put the cool cloth back over my eyes and went to sleep again. When I woke up, it was night. Yet the air felt hot, and the breeze that came across the raft was warm. I lay there thinking. "What time is it?" I asked. "About 10. "At night?" There was a puzzlement in his voice. "'Tis day." I put my hand in front of my face. Even in the very blackest night you can see your own very hand, but I could not see mine. I screamed at Timothy, "I'm blind! I'm blind!" "What?" His voice was a frightened roar. Then I knew he was bending over me. I felt his breath in my face. He said, "Young bass, you cannot be blind." He pulled me roughly from the shelter. "Look at the sun," he ordered. His hands pointed to my face. I felt a strong warmth against it, but everything was black. The silence seemed to last forever as he held my face toward the sun. Then a long shuddering sigh came from his great body. He said very gently, "Now, young bass, you must lie down and rest, and what has happened will go away. 'Tis all natural temporary." But his voice was hollow. I got down on the hot boards, blinking my eyes again and again, trying to lift the curtain of blackness. I touched them. They did not feel any different. Then I realized that the pain had gone away. It had gone away, but left me blind. I could hear my voice saying, far off, "I don't feel any pain, Timothy. The pain has gone away." I guess he was trying to think it all out. In a few minutes he answered, "Once, over on Barbados, a man had a outrageous crack on the head when a sailing boom shift. This man was blind too. The whole day he saw the night. Then through it went away. Do you think that is what will happen to me?" "I think that be true, young bass," he said. Then he became very quiet. After a moment, lying there in darkness, hearing the creak of the raft and feeling its motion, it all hit me. I was blind, and we were lost at sea. I began to crawl, screaming for my mother and my father, but felt his hard hands in my arms. He held me tight and said low and soft, "Young bass, young bass." He kept repeating it. I'll never forget that first hour of knowing I was blind. I was so frightened that it was hard for me to breathe. It was as if I'd been put inside something that was all dark and I couldn't get out. I remember that at one point my fear turned to anger. Anger at Timothy for not letting me stay in the water with my mother, and anger at her because I was on the raft. I began hitting him, and I remember him saying, "If that will make you better, go ahead." After a while, I felt very tired and fell back on the hot boards. Chapter 5. I guess it was toward noon on the third day aboard the raft that Timothy said tensely, "I hear a motor." "A motor?" "Shh." I listened. Yes, there was a far-off engine sound coming and faintly above the slap of sea. Then I could hear Timothy moving around. "'Tis an aircraft," he said. My heart began to pound. They were looking for us. I felt around, then crawled from beneath the shelter to look toward the sound, but I could see nothing. I heard the hinges on the trapdoor creak. Timothy said quietly, as though afraid to chase the sound away, "It knowing what we doin' there by seeing smoke, I do believe." He ripped down one of the triangle legs, and I heard cloth tearing. Soon he said, "We made the torch, young bass. The man up there be seeing the smoke all right, all right." The faint drone of the aircraft seemed closer now, and in a moment I smelled cloth burning, and I knew he was holding the wrapped piece of wood toward the sky. He shouted, "Look down here!" But already the drone seemed to be fading. Timothy yelled, "I see it, way to port." I tried to make my eyes cut through the darkness. "Is he coming our way?" Don't know, young bass, Timothy replied anxiously. I said, I can hear it now. There was nothing in the air but the sea sounds. I can't hear it now. There was nothing in the air but the sea sounds. Timothy looked. Look down here. There is a raft with a little blind boy and old man. It's Ducat. Look down here, I tell you. The drone could not be heard, just the slap of the water and the sound of the light wind making our shelter flap. We were alone again on the ocean. After a moment of silence, I heard the sizzle of water as Timothy doused the torch. He sighed deeply. I'll be ready next time for true. Let the torch dry, then I be ready. Soon he sat down beside me. 'Tis a good thing not to harass the soul over this. We are edging into the aircraft track, same as the ship they run. I said nothing but put my head down on my knees. Do not be disheartened, young bass. Today we will be found to be true. But the long, hot day was passing without the sight of anything. I knew Timothy was constantly scanning the sea. It was all so calm now that the raft didn't seem to be drifting. Once I crawled over to the edge to touch the warm water and felt Timothy right behind me. He said, Careful, young bass. The shark's always hungry, always waiting for the man to fall overboard. Drawing back from the edge, I asked, Are there many here? Yes, many here. But as long as we have a raft, they do not molest us. Standing on the sea wall at Willemstad, sometimes I'd seen their fins in the water. I'd also seen them on the dock at the Rudercade market, their mouths open and those sharp teeth grinning. I went back under the shelter, spending a long time rubbing Stucat. He purred and pushed himself along my body. I was glad that I had seen him and had seen Timothy before going blind. I thought how awful it would be to awaken on a raft and not know what they looked like. Timothy must have been standing over us, for he said, "The cat not look good, not good luck." After a moment he added, "But to cause the death of a cat is very, very bad luck." I don't think Stucat is bad luck," I said. "I'm glad he is here with us." Timothy did not answer, but turned back, I guess to watch the sea again. I can imagine those bloodshot eyes set in that massive, scarred black face sweeping over the sea. "Tell me what's out there, Timothy," I said. It was very important to know that now. I wanted to know everything that was out there. He laughed. "Just miles of blue water, miles of blue water." "Nothing else?" He realized what I meant. "Oh, to be sure, young boss, I see a fish jump away forward. That mean large fish chasing him. Then while back, a turtle passed, a sport's eye, but too far out to reach him back." His eyes were beckoning mine. "What's in the sky, Timothy?" "In the sky?" He searched it. "No clouds, young bass, just blue like 'twas yesterday. But now and then I see a petrel. While ago a booby." I laughed for the first time all day. It was a funny name for a bird. A booby? Timothy was quite serious. "This booby I saw a blue face. Maybe nesting out somewhere on the bank. Maybe not. They be feeding on the flying fish. I too watching the birds, 'cause they tell us we're very close to the shore." "How does a booby look, Timothy?" "Nothing much," he replied. "Tail like our chocolate, sharp beak, most white on his body." I tried to picture it, wondering if I'd ever see a bird again. In the early morning, I knew it was early because the air was still cool and there was dampness on the boards of the raft. I heard Timothy shout, "I see an island, Drew." In wild excitement, I stumbled up and fell overboard. I went under the water yelling for him, then came up gasping. I heard a splash and knew he was he was in the water too. Something slapped up against my leg, and I thought it was Timothy. I knew how to swim, but I didn't know which way to go, so I was treading water. Then I heard Timothy's frightened roar, "Sharks!" and he was thrashing about near me. He grabbed my hair with one hand and used his other arm to drag me back toward the raft. I had turned on my face and was trying to hold my breath. Then I felt my body being thrown, and I was back on the boards of the raft, gasping for air. I knew that Timothy was still in the water because I could hear splashing and cursing. The raft tilted down suddenly on one side. Timothy was back aboard. Panting, he bent over me. He yelled, "Dang fool, man, I told you about the shark." I knew Timothy was in a rage. I could hear his heavy breathing and knew he was staring at me. "Shark all round us all the time," he roared. I said, "I'm sorry." Timothy said, "On this raft you crawl, young bass, you hear me?" I nodded. His voice was thick with anger, but in a moment after he took several deep breaths, he asked, "You all right, young bass?" I guess he sat down beside me to rest. His breath was still heavy. Finally he said, "Man, die quick out there." We'd both forgotten about the island. I said, "Timothy, you saw an island?" He laughed. "Yes, the island. There it is." I said, "Where?" Timothy answered scornfully, "There. Look, man, look." Angrily I said to him, "I can't see." He kept forgetting that. His voice was low when he said, "Yes, young bass, that be true. In all this harassment, wild the shark, I did forget." Then I felt his hands on my shoulders. He twisted them. "That direction, young bass. Turning to look where he had me pointed, I asked, "Are there any people on it?" "'Tis a very small island, outrageous low." I repeated, "Are there any people on it?" I thought they could contact my father and then send for help. Timothy answered honestly, "No, young bass, no people. People not be living on the island that has no water. No people, no water, no food, no phones. It was not any better than the raft. In fact, it might be worse." "How far away are we?" "About 2 mile," Timothy said. "Maybe we should stay on the raft. A schooner will see us, or an airplane." Timothy said positively, "No, we better off on land, and we drifting that way. The tide be running with us." His voice was happy. He wanted to be off the sea. I was certain my father had planes and ships out looking for us. I said, "Timothy, the Navy is searching for us." "I know." Timothy did not answer me. He just said, "'Tis a pretty thing, to be sure, and I see a white beach, and being that, low sea grape bushes, then on the hill some palm, maybe 20, 30 palm." I was sure he couldn't see that far. I said, "Timothy, wouldn't it be better if we stayed on the raft and found a big island with people on it?" He ignored me. He said, By the night, I saw a surf washing white over the banks off to port, but did not waken you, young bass, but knew we be getting near the cays." I said, "I don't want to go on that island." I don't think there was anyone on earth as stubborn as old Timothy. There was steel in his voice when he answered, "We be going on that island, young bass, that be true." But he knew how I felt now, because he added, "From this island we will get help. Be true, I swear."